Went from Lake.
Okay, if you could please rise and join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for joining us this evening. Jody, could you call the roll, please?
Dennis,
Here.
Harold,
Here.
Hollenbaugh,
Here?
Musgrave,
Here.
Odoricio,
Here.
Robinette.
Here.
Okay, the minutes from our February 3rd meeting were distributed for your perusal. Do we have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Jody, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do not.
Okay. That brings us to lobby visitations. Do we have anyone signed up for lobby visitation tonight?
Not this evening.
My. You know, I just came from the school board meeting and I promised Jan that I would stall so that she and Clint would have a chance to get here.
Mr.
And
President,
I'm not doing very well.
I have a few things that I'd like to say.
Okay, moving right along. Introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
from the Finance Committee, I have an ordinance providing supplemental and/or amending appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Okay, and I have from Public Utilities an ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to enter into contracts for the sale of vehicles and equipment. That brings us to official reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to briefly remark this evening on the efforts of our Public Works Department. I'm sure you've noticed, like I have, the winter decided to visit in the last couple of weeks. And as we've come to expect, Public Works stepped up when we needed them. These were kind of unique storms, a lot of ice in place of snow and slush. I mean, you all experienced it like I did, but my experience on the roads was anticipation of events resulted in pre-treatment of the roads, which certainly contributed to their efforts to clear the roads and make them passable in a safe manner. So I just wanted to share my appreciation for all of our Public Works personnel for their efforts in these last couple of weeks during the storms. Mick, I hope you'll share my appreciation with them and let them know that we really do appreciate all the work that they do. Completes my report, subject to any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for the mayor this evening? Okay, thank you very much. Municipal Administrator, Ms. Tretter.
Good evening. As you'll see, I have members of our planning department here this evening to share updates with all of you. So before I turn it over to them, I will see if there are any questions for me.
Are there any questions for Ms. Tretter this evening? Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to send it Heather's way. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and those in attendance. We appreciate you being here. Next to me, to my right, is Chase Fletcher. He is our new senior planner that started back in November. He's going to hand out our annual report that is hot off the press that you can look through while I review that. It's pretty lengthy, so I'm not going to read every detail, hoping you read it later. And if you don't want a paper copy, let me know. I can also email it. Thank you, Chase. So I'm going to start with some highlights of 2024 for the planning department. Our zoning permits did increase about 16% between 23 and 24. Our new dwelling units, the permits issued increased 39.5%. So we've actually had our top year in 2024, the past 10 years for new housing starts. The actions of the zoning board, planning commission, Preservation Commission also increased quite a bit, so they were very busy in 2024. We feel our self-certification and rental registration program was very successful, as Chase will describe once we are done going through the majority of the report. We also received an $18,000 grant from the Certified Local Government Program that we're part of that installed those 16 historical signs that hopefully you've all had a chance to review. So again, another big project that we did in 2024. And then, of course, I already mentioned adding a senior planner to our staff was really important in 2024, and we're happy to have that assistance. So I did a report a little different this year. I actually went by zoning districts. It was too hard with all the new zoning districts we have to do it like I did it before, which was by permit type. For example, R1 is the first category. The largest permit we had there is fences. For whatever reason, fences seem to always be something that we have a lot of permits for, and that was the top category for R1, low-density zoning. And then the second category is driveways, and third highest category is new construction for R1. In R2, our highest total was for new construction. So again, 1-unit dwellings. In the pedestrian residential, we had actually 3 new dwellings constructed. And then, again, typically your fences, again, are always one of those highest. Unfortunately, sometimes we like to say fences make good neighbors for whatever reason. So you'll see kind of a pattern there in the other residential zones. So R3, we did have 1-unit dwelling constructed, and then accessory structures, we had 4. Otherwise, not a whole lot of construction in the R3. In the university-oriented residential district, you'll see we only had a total of 3 permits. And we had 1 2-unit dwelling that has requested a permit. But we count those as 2 separate dwellings. It just seems easier at the end of the day to count those as dwelling units. As far as mixed-use neighborhood zone, we only had a total of 2 permits, a driveway and a sign. Agricultural, we only had 1 permit. That was for an accessory structure. The Gateway District, we only had a total of 3 permits. Those were all signs. And the Central Business District, the top permit type there is also signs. As we have a lot of businesses that will reface signs, that's the top permit there. Institutional zoning, we had 2 group homes constructed. We did count those as part of our dwelling units for new construction because, again, that's a home for people. So we wanted to make sure we counted that in there. And again, there was a total of 9 institutional zoning permits issued. And then we give you a breakdown under there of the types of construction. So additions, Dayspring, you might have seen that they're going to start addition fairly soon. Wood County Board of DD. We also had an accessory structure added at the high school, alteration permit for St. Aloysius, and then we had zoning compliance permits for actually Wood County Job and Family Services and Wood County Health Department. Again, we added some pictures there so you can see. Pictures always make things, a little prettier and fun to look at. Interstate commerce, you probably have noticed there's new construction starting on the corner of Mercer and East Wooster. That's going to be a Wingstop Jersey Mike's. That permit was issued in 2024 and required the demolition of that existing structure. We think it's going to look like a very much improved corner there once the construction is done. Speedway applied for an alteration, and we have a zoning compliance permit for Heavenly Pizza. I believe they're starting to move forward with their work on the interior. Commercial, we had new construction for commercial, 1 new building that is pretty close to completion, went up pretty fast, which is a car wash. And Children's Resource Center, they're actually building a pretty large building in the back of their building. And we had an alteration permit for Harbor Freight and zoning compliance for McDonald's and Circle K both on South Main Street. Our last but not least category would be the IE, Innovation and Employment. We had a total of 19 permits, and the largest type of permit we had issued there were additions. We had several additions completed in 2024 for mostly our industrial friends in the city. So I created a chart just to compare 2023 to 2024. Again, you'll see our highest permits issued for both years were fences. You can see obviously a pattern there. So 102 fence permits this year compared to 92 last year. And in other words, we break down each one. Again, new construction was highest in 2024 at 53 buildings compared to 32 at this time last year. We also give you a handout showing where the new dwelling units are being constructed as far as 2024. That map highlights, again, all the locations, and then we have a picture of the first accessory dwelling unit that was built under a zoning permit under the new zoning code. So I thought it would be fun to kind of capture that in our 2024 report, and hopefully we'll see some more into the future. We also did, as I mentioned, a 10-year comparison of new dwelling units by year. So again, the past 10 years, 2024 had the highest dwelling units at 48. Back in 2019 and 2017, we had 34. So that would be looking back to where we had the next highest amounts of new construction for houses. Total permits by year. So 2024 is not our highest year the past 10 years. Our highest year for permits was 2021, where we had a total of 436 zoning permits issued. So we're not quite at that peak at all, but we have increased quite a bit from 2023 to 2024. So our office assists in issuing downtown permits. So we have a portion of our code that allows the use of the public sidewalk, so outdoor dining, merchandise display, and A-frame signs, and of course parklets that most people notice on the parking lanes. And so we assist with those permits and licenses for that, and we issued 22 of those this year. Lori actually signs those, but we just help collect all the requirements for those and make sure it's filled out properly. So as far as zoning code enforcement, we give you a chart here. One of the largest things we deal with is basically new construction with no permit, as you'll see here in the chart. A lot of use and occupancy we had to look at this year because of the rental program and making sure those registrations and inspections had the correct legal occupancy listed and use. And so that was a big part of work this year, along with signs. We always are dealing with signs in the right-of-way or no permit. That's a constant thing that I know we send them out grabbing those and trying to work with people to educate them on the right spot for signs. I also gave you several pictures just to give you a variety of what the zoning code enforcement officer does. You know, it's making sure signs are complying with their permits. It's making sure that, they meet the new zoning code. For example, monument signs now need a base. So we had to work with an owner that put up a sign with no permit, kind of the pattern there. If you have no permit, you're not, sometimes it's not intentionally putting up a sign that's not correct, but we had to have this certain person fix the sign so it complied. So that's part of his job to do that. Again, signs are everywhere, so that's a constant battle that he's dealing with. So he just gave you some pictures of signs. He dealt with moving some donation boxes out of the right-of-way. It was causing some visibility issues for pedestrians and vehicles. Those pictures are there. We have illegal stone that he deals with, fences that were built too tall, signs in the wrong spot, reporting things to other departments to get those cleaned up, and again, some pictures on that. Another thing he deals with, we had an itinerant vendor with no permit. That's something else that needs a permit. And the trash and recycling bins in front of properties he handles too. So we're going to skip rental registration inspections and leave maybe the best for last, or what you're most interested in, and Chase will report on that. As far as Zoning Board of Appeals, they did, again, had their request increase. So we had 35 in 2024 compared to 25 in 2023. So again, very busy board there, but the most requests were for off-street parking and driveways, which is no surprise because that's why we brought that up to council, that we thought we needed some changes in the zoning code based on the driveways and parking. In 2023, the highest variance requests were for setbacks. Planning Commission had 41 things to review this year, so they were very busy compared to 13 in 2023. So that is a big jump there. We had a lot of subdivision actions taken. Again, the zoning code update, a rezoning request, and we had 7 annexations, which is pretty abnormal. We haven't had that many, I would say, in a while. So that definitely bumped up the numbers. And of course, the actions of the Historic Preservation Commission equal more work for Planning Commission when they have to review those requests, just like council does. So speaking of Historic Preservation Commission, they meet every single month. There were no months off except December because it fell on Christmas Eve. So as you can see by this list, they were very busy implementing their 3-year strategic plan. They had their first local historic district designated, which was North Maple Street. That might not seem like a heavy lift, but it was a big lift for them because they had to write a letter, they had to create questions to send to owners, and a written survey. That's part of the ordinance. So they put a lot of work into that. They have also written 31 historic building articles of the month. Those seem to be very popular. We've had a lot of positive feedback on those, which is kind of nice in these days of social media where it tends to be a little bit negative. We probably all have seen. So it's nice to have these articles that educate the public and also, again, have some positivity to them. Again, I already mentioned the signs that were installed. A lot of hours and I would say months went into that project. They celebrated National Preservation Month in May, and they will do that again this year. And they attend a lot of educational conferences and seminars because as part of us being a certified local government, we have to have an educated commission to keep doing that. So I give you a copy of their plan and marked what I feel is complete, or at least they've made significant progress. I've given you some pictures of their efforts, and again, like for example, History Lives Here Month. When you see those signs there, you'll know what those look like and to scan the QR code. I didn't even mention we did the sign dedication in this room along with the Worcester Green, also in 2024. Something else we do, and I meant to grab a sample and I forgot to, but we send newsletters to new residents that buy homes in the city, and I have a screenshot of that newsletter. So in 2024, we sent 272 of these. They're, we made them look very nice, our communications department. They're in a nice big green envelope, and we only sent 133 in 2023. So we definitely had a lot more sent this year. We have a lot of positive feedback about really just telling the public about what departments are here, resources we have, and how to contact the city and all the great services we provide. We also assign new addresses in our office and also fixed addresses. So that's always a fun job when you have to change your address. They don't really like that, but it's very important to have correct addresses so they have proper city services, especially emergency services. So that's a big part of our department, and we actually had about 120 address letters sent in 2024. So another big part of our department is dealing with the department contract, which we are really appreciative of community development, who helps us handle a lot of the complaints that we get on reported concern, and then we're able to get a lot of those to the health department or civil enforcement or code enforcement. So in 2024, we had 148 complaints, and 86% of those complaints were resolved, so 128. That is down in complaints compared to 2023, where we had 215 complaints. We also are due for the Exterior Housing Evaluation Survey next year. So every 5 years, the health department does a survey of the exterior of all the properties in Bowling Green that are residential. So we'll be excited to see the progress we've made with all the work that we've been doing on properties in the city. And we will see when that arrives, what that looks like. So we gave you a lot of before and after pictures of actions of the health department. And we appreciate Matt Snow from Community Development who took these before and after pictures. So again, it gives you a lot of idea of the work that goes into being proactive on a lot of these properties. So for example, I would say the highest category we have is structures needing paint. So you can tell by a lot of these pictures, a lot of it is paint. There are, new porches. There are examples of new roof, new windows, new siding, and different kinds of properties. So we showed you some commercial properties, and then residential properties are the majority. So I gave you a copy too of national planning trends. I think it's important to read over those because you'll see this also applies to Bowling Green. For example, housing, housing, housing. We need more housing across the country. And I thought it was important that I cite these planning trends that are also coming into 2025 and gave you a source that you can read that over. But again, I thought it was really important for you to, again, just kind of know what's going on in the world of planning. And then I give you a copy of the Community Action Plan recommendations, the actions taken, and which recommendations are done. So we made a lot of progress when we did the zoning code update last year. And I would definitely point out that I would say the Safe Routes to School announcement was important, and that was probably the most important implementation that happened for at least moving forward I can't think what we call it, shared use path from Crim to Carter Park. So that's most exciting. And then I give you a copy of the recommendations from the future land use plan. And I would say with the downtown alleyway project, that really moves a lot of those downtown recommendations forward also. So again, still a work in progress, but I think we're making a lot of great progress on both of those plans. If there's any questions, I obviously am here, but I will pass it over to Chase to talk about the rental registration and inspection program.
Thank you, Heather. As Heather said, my name is Chase Fletcher. I have been here with the City of Bowling Green since early November as the senior planner. It has been a pleasure to be here thus far, and I'm looking forward to much more to come. While I've been here, I've been getting very hands-on with the rental registration program inspections, and I have to say that it is a lot. There's a lot to grapple with, a lot of data that has to be entered, a lot of information gathering, a lot of facts that have to be discovered. I cannot emphasize the amount of effort that it takes with working with the planning department, all of our staff, working with our GIS staff to develop the online portals, having support and registration and inspection processes with them as well. Also coordinating with the fire department and the Wood County Health Department that assist us with complaints and inspection checklist questions. But I was asked to come here to give an overview of how 2024 ended, and 2024 ended strong. We ended the year with 7,280 total registered rental dwelling units. We had 7,170 inspections submitted. We currently have pending inspections at 106. Four of those, there's going to be four that are going to be removed from the self-inspection program. I've been talking with Mr. Brown about sending letters to those individuals. We had 67 failed inspections. 43 of those were repaired after they failed. We are currently working with 24 of them. With letters for property transfers, that's utilizing different methods to try and determine what could be a rental, or property transfers from the auditor's transfer website. We had 74 of those. First, second, and third notifications, we had 139, and city attorney notifications, we had 18. We also work together to develop a new policy to determine if a property is a potential rental, as well as a procedure for sending letters to suspected unregistered properties, or when there is no response to property transfer letters. Myself and Heather have been meeting to find ways to improve the program for staff, and most importantly, the users, that being property owners or their managers. At this time, with the numbers that I just expounded upon, we are right now looking at around 99% compliance with the program, and I think that is a large success when we're talking about the number of rentals that are in the city. Landlords have expressed a great deal of satisfaction with the program. A lot of them have mentioned how this program has allowed them to find problems with their properties that they otherwise may not have took a second look to find, which I think is a great benefit. If you look on one of the pages, there is just some pictures of some of the issues that were found with properties. You have exposed wiring, you have smoke detectors, fire alarms that are not connected. A lot of it's wiring. There's also plumbing issues, foundation issues, structural issues. It runs the whole gamut of things that are wrong with properties. And that's why properties were marked as fail, and many of them are making headway in correcting those. You will also see a copy of a flyer that is on our website. We are actually currently working on updating that, and we're going to be sending out a new one here soon. There is also a handout that is provided to tenants. And also there is a screenshot of the registration system. We are revamping the registration system. We are working with the GIS staff to get that up and running. And with the new one that's coming out, it's going to be much more user-friendly for all those who are using it. That'd be us, that'd be landlords, and managers as well. It'll be streamlined and make it so much easier for registering properties and putting their inspections in. But speaking with many of the property owners, we've gotten quite a bit of positive feedback from this. I'll read a couple of those right now. So the city was very helpful and made the system as easy as possible to navigate. We were surprised at some of the issues that we did not know existed and we were able to fix, as I mentioned earlier. One said, I think it's great. It holds landlords accountable, and we're not all slumlords. We want to do the right thing. This is the best rental program and staff I've worked with. I had a gentleman just the other day call me and say that he's going to sell his properties in Toledo and start purchasing properties here in Bowling Green. I had another one mention to me that the issues that they found when they fix them, and not only does that increase the property value for their property, but it also increases the value of those around them, which is a benefit for the city as a whole. So with all this information put together, I would say that this program is a very large success.
So that is it, unless you have any questions.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
Have we gathered any feedback from tenants on the rental registration or self-inspection process?
So the feedback we get from tenants would go through report of concern normally, or we have had calls here and there, I would say not very many, concerned that they're being charged and just wanting to understand, you know, if this, why are they being charged? Is the city involved with that? And, you know, we're clear to say the ordinance does not stipulate any type of required charges. That's really a tenant landlord issue, if they do wish to charge or not. Again, we tried to make this as user-friendly as possible, and obviously with no cost, it makes it easy for us to say, hey, you know, we need you to comply. Really, our goal is compliance with this, and we don't have a fee.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
City Attorney, Mr. Brown,
No report.
any questions for Mr. Brown this evening? All right. Brian is not here this evening.
That's correct, but Hunter said he would answer any questions you have for Brian.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. O'Connell that they would like to filter through Mr. Brown? Suddenly, I feel the urge to have a question. So it's my understanding during the ice storm that we had no power outages caused by the ice storm, though we did have a lightning switch flip that led to one resident in the city being without power for about 2 hours. Is that correct? Sounds about right. Okay, cool. All right. That brings us to council committee reports. Are there any council committee reports? I would just like to make mention, since Rachel is ill this evening, that we do have a public hearing for the zoning on 416 West Wooster. That will be prior to the March 17th council meeting. It will be here in council chambers, and it will start at 5:30 p.m. Okay, if no one has anything else, that brings us to the reading of legislation. Jody?
Legislation for
Oh,
first.
wait.
Sorry. You said 5:30? It
5:30.
Was for 6, but it switched to 5:30.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay. Legislation for first reading. Ordinance 9261 for first reading. Ordinance providing supplemental and/or amending appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31, 2025.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette,
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 9261 its second and third readings.
Second?
okay, properly moved and seconded. Jody?
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended for ordinance 9261.
Ordinance 9261 for second and third readings. Ordinance providing supplemental and/or amending appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31, 2025.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 9261.
Second?
Okay, it's properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9261 is adopted.
Ordinance 9262 for first reading. Ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to enter into contracts for the sale of vehicles and equipment. Legislation for second reading. Ordinance number 9260 for second reading. Ordinance amending the zoning district map of the City of Bowling Green for approximately 307 acres at 416 West Wooster Street, parcel number B08-5104-2404-1103-8000 from PR Pedestrian Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning. Legislation for third reading, Resolution 3877 for third reading. Resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio to enter into a programmatic agreement between the city of Bowling Green and the State Historic Preservation Office, formerly known as Ohio Historic Preservation Office, for the administration of activities funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Ohio Development Services Agency, formerly known as Ohio Department of Development.
Mr. President,
Mr. Odericio.
I move to adopt Resolution 3877.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes, Resolution 3877 is adopted.
Ordinance 9257 for third reading. Ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Bowling Green, Ohio and the Wood County Regional Airport Authority.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 9257.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
I had mentioned at the previous council meeting that I may make a motion to table this. I am very pleased to say, and also very thankful, that the mayor took initiative and scheduled a meeting with the various individuals related to the airport, and one of the major discussion points was safety measures. And I just want to thank the mayor for doing that, setting that meeting up. It was very informative, and the concerns that I had are lessened because of what was learned. So thank you for stepping in.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. Jody?
Odericio,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 9257 is adopted.
Ordinance 9258 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting sections 90.02 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding failure to confine animals.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9258.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9258 is adopted.
Ordinance 9259 for third reading. Ordinance authorizing an additional temporary reduction and/or moratorium of certain residential construction fees.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9259.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Phipps?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.